Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the CBS polymorphism, what do you call it, webinar. So once again, my webcam is failing to cooperate. I don't know what's up. So I even shaved and brushed my hair and got dressed. I guess I feel better, more professional sitting here. So I just want to test, make sure everybody can hear me. Just go ahead and type in the question box there if you guys can hear me. Yep. All right, we're on. Hello again. Perfect. Thanks all. And can you see my screen? Susanna says yes. Say yes, I see your screen. Screen clear. Perfect. Good. Thanks. Someone said no. Donna, you need to check out something. Maybe ask your kids who are tech savvy. Kids are always pretty good these days. So it's this is a big topic. I know a lot of you guys are stuck on it, and there is a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of good information. So I'm hoping to try to dispel some of the myths. So I know a lot of you do very well when you reduce sulfur in your diet. I know you do well when you reduce some protein in your diet. I know you do better when you do those things first before you start your methylfolate and supporting your methylation. That makes sense, and there's reasons for all that. But let me start addressing the 699 thing right away. Let me go here first. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. So I want to remind you guys that enzymes are affected, right, by your lifestyle, your diet, the environment, the nutrients that you're taking or consuming from your food, or even the bacteria that are making it, because water-soluble nutrients are made by our microbiome. We're learning more and more about that every day. So you have something coming in, it goes into the gene or the enzyme, depending on what's going on. So, and then it makes the end product, and things will decrease the activity of the enzyme or that gene, and things will increase the activity of that gene or the said enzyme, and the cofactor makes it go faster. So substrates don't go into genes, so that's not accurate, but substrates do go into enzymes, and genes make enzymes, not always, but a lot. So that is covered heavily in the How to Treat SNPs webinar, which is available for free on YouTube. But you guys are interested in homocysteine. There is a spelling error here. Sorry about that. My graphic designer is not a biochemist, and he's busy. So let's look at the things which decrease activity. All right, so the purple. Here's your CBS enzyme. The things that slow it down are a very toxic compound called peroxynitrate. If you don't have very much SAMe, or your methylation cycle is not working very well, your CBS enzyme won't be working very well. If you have low methionine, which comes from your diet, typically protein, well, yeah, mainly, well, yes, only. So it comes from your protein. If your glutathione levels are adequate, then it's going to slow the formation or the function of CBS. If your cysteine levels are high, then I don't actually know if that's correct. So put a question mark on that one. So high cysteine may or may not speed up, high cysteine may or may not slow down the CBS enzyme. I say that because I need to find a study to support that. That was a theory of mine. And I should have put an asterisk and put down here theory, because now that I'm thinking about it, it might actually speed it up. But anyhow, and cysteine also comes from protein. And you should know something about cysteine. Cysteine is very, very reactive. So if you have a lot of free radicals in your body, then your cysteine is very susceptible to making things worse. So cysteine in the presence of oxygen, iron, possibly copper, and possibly manganese, but definitely iron, the cysteine will convert to cysteine, which is spelled like this. So cysteine will convert to cysteine, and that's nasty. So that will run around and it will start damaging a lot of your proteins. And testosterone, interestingly, slows the CBS enzyme. And I found that interesting. I can't think of the mechanism offhand because I need to figure out more about the testosterone. But it's also interesting that autistic children are typically boys, and here's yet another possible linkage between that. So, because testosterone is primary in boys and not so primary in women unless they have PCOS or other disorders. So things that speed up CBS are zinc, vitamin B6, high methylation, so high SAMe, high protein diet, low glutathione, low cysteine, possibly, that again is a question mark, that's a theory of mine, and hydrogen peroxide. So everything on here is proven except for the cysteine, okay? So, and I get this data from research. I'm not pulling it out of my, well, you know. So, and CBS will, along with serine, will make cystathionine. And cystathionine you can test on your labs. So, and if your homocysteine is elevated, then that's possibly related to a slow CBS enzyme, or it's a deficiency in vitamin B6, or it's a deficiency in your vitamin B12, to make it bigger for you guys. So if homocysteine is elevated, it could be your CBS enzyme isn't working very well due to a low vitamin B6, or possibly it's being slowed down by these things, or you could have a high homocysteine also because of low B12, low methylfolate, and these things slowing the MTR enzyme down. Okay, so here is CBS and where it goes. So CBS starts the floodgates of moving homocysteine out of the body. So you should know that homocysteine is typically recycled by the body. Homocysteine is very useful. So we can't think of homocysteine as negative. If you have no homocysteine, you're dead. So you need homocysteine to be recycled so it can make your SAMe, to make your methylation do what it needs to do. So homocysteine is needed. And when your body gets too much homocysteine, it's going to eliminate it. That's actually probably another promoter of CBS. I would say high homocysteine along with high SAMe. That is a theory. It's not proven. But I would say high homocysteine, since if the body has elevated levels of homocysteine, it wants to get rid of it, right? So it might upregulate the CBS enzyme in order to do that if it has adequate vitamin B6 and the other things aren't slowing it down. So because homocysteine in high amounts is toxic, it can lead to elevated SAW, which shuts down your methyltransferases, which is your methylation. It can lead to homocysteine thiolactone, which will be here in the future. And it can also lead to asymmetric dimethylarginine, which is somewhere else, which is also nasty. So I know a lot of you guys talk about CBS and sulfites. So if you follow homocysteine going into CBS, going to cystathionine, becoming cysteine, and moving over this direction, it becomes sulfite. And then it goes through the SUOX enzyme, which uses molybdenum, and becomes sulfate, and you pee it out. So one way to tell if you're eating too much protein, too much sulfur, and your CBS enzyme is working and eliminating things is if you smell like eggs or you smell like sulfur. So, and that is a very keen smell. If you boil an egg, you know what sulfur smells like. That's cysteine. It's very stinky stuff. So if you steam broccoli, that also stinks up your house. So if your urine or your armpits or your breath smell like sulfur, then you have too much of it and your body is trying to eliminate it. And it's trying to eliminate it, remember, because cysteine can be toxic. And cysteine, I'm updating this planner right now, cysteine in the presence of oxygen and iron will become cysteine, which you don't see over here, and then that will just mess up a lot of stuff. It's just nasty. So cysteine is either stored as glutathione, cysteine will convert into glutathione and it will store that way to not react with a lot of different proteins, or it can be converted to sulfite and peed out, or it'll be, the rest of it will be be made into pyruvate and go into the Krebs cycle and make your ATP. So, all that said, molybdenum we've talked about numerous times because I know molybdenum has helped a lot of you. I know reducing your protein intake has also helped because if you're consuming a lot of protein, you're going to be getting high levels of cysteine, and that's going to be pushing your body to get rid of it via sulfites into sulfate using molybdenum. So what you can do is you can have protein in the morning for your breakfast, and you can have a higher fat, lower protein lunch, and then you can have some carbohydrates for both breakfast and lunch, and then you can have a kind of a fat, low protein, and healthy carbohydrate dinner. So you need to figure out how much protein you need, and it's typically 0.8 grams per kilo, or you can make it simple and say 1 gram of protein for every 2 pounds of body weight. That's a good way to think about it. So you don't want to overeat protein. Too much is going to push the nitrogen balance off, which is going to cause elevated ammonia, and it's going to consume a lot of nutrients, and that's going to be an issue. It's also going to push your CBS enzyme. Now, a lot of you guys are wondering about, let me think, you're wondering a lot about things. I'm going to get to your questions here soon. I'm trying to think of the next best thing to do here. Let's address the CBS polymorphisms, the SNPs, because I know you guys talk about that. So what I do is I go to the National Library of Medicine, and I go to the clinical variations, ClinVar, and I type in whatever gene I want to learn about. And this is not always accurate, but it's pretty darn good. So I typed in CBS, then I clicked pathogenic, which means it's going to be causing a problem in people's biochemistry and physiology. And here are the results. There are 64 different findings here. It's actually 106 that here's a CBS gene, and here's a specific polymorphism. There's a thymine that's switched to a cytosine, and this, when that switches, it leads to high homocysteine in the urine, but it is B6 responsive. Why is it B6 responsive? It's B6 responsive because B6 is the cofactor for CBS, and it is pathogenic. So, and here's another high homocysteine. Here's another one. Here's another one. High homocysteine in urine, and high homocysteine in urine. And high homocysteine in urine is pretty significant. So if you got elevated homocysteine coming out in the urine, that's a big deal. And you're definitely going to have high homocysteine in the blood as well. So these are all high homocysteine. Every single one of these is high homocysteine, but it is B6 responsive. Not always, but a lot of them. And note, I'm going to type in 699. Let me type in this. Okay, that's not the 699 variant. Neither is that. I am not seeing the CBS 699 variant. See, these are all the different variants right here. And note that I typed in 699 to help it pop up better, because they write it here 699 C greater than T. Well, switch to T. It's not here. So according to the National Library of Medicine, the CBS 699 variant is not pathogenic. But I do know that some of you guys are saying otherwise, and I respect that. And if we look at this paper here, this paper does bring up the fact that the CBS 699T may increase the risk of preterm birth. And the 699 variant is very limited in the research, but it's not a slowed polymorphism of the CBS. The CBS enzyme is supposed to be working faster, and if it's working faster, then where is my slides? CBS enzyme is working faster, it's going to be making more cysteine, more glutathione, and more sulfites. So if you have the CBS 699 variant, your possibility of having increased sulfites is going to be higher, and potentially, and your cysteine levels are going to be potentially higher, and your glutathione levels, well, should be better, and your homocysteine levels could possibly be lower. But again, we have to always remember that it's not just about the polymorphism, but it's about the epigenetic control too, your B6 level, what's going on in your diet and your environment, and else, yeah, mainly your diet and your environment, okay, and your hormones. So keep that in mind. Okay. Now, and here's another paper, or not papers, but I typed in the National Library of Medicine and PubMed. I used PubMed, and I type in CBS, and then I sorted it by title, and it got me 8 papers. So that was the only thing I did. So see here, I typed in CBS polymorphism, and I got 331. But seeing it's not very good, so I went down here and I saw titles with my search terms. I said, okay, let's see those. Here they are. So here are some CBS papers. Here's 833. Here's another one, cleft palate, and so on. And what you should know about, let's see if this is, okay. What you should know, the majority of CBS polymorphisms, as you already saw, are related to elevated homocysteine. And the primary lab finding that you will see from a CBS polymorphism is potentially, not always, potentially elevated homocysteine. So, and the number one related cause of elevated homocysteine in family members is because of a CBS slowed enzyme. So the CBS faster enzyme is not, at least currently, not that big of an issue according to research. And I think that there's being a lot of blame put on the CBS 699 variant on your genetic report that you're getting, and you're seeing it plus plus. And yes, it might be contributing, but I think that it's leading you down the wrong path. Yes, you might be doing better with eliminating sulfites with molybdenum, but you also have to know that sulfation itself can be blocked for various other reasons, like food coloring, pesticides, insecticides, eating too much sulfur. The ammonia cycle is screwed up. You're just eating too much protein, and then you've made a dietary change. So I really get into this heavily, as I've showed you guys before, but I'm going to show you again. If you want to get a full on, because I'm going to get to your questions, if you guys want to get a full hour and a half, I believe, on what's going on with the CBS enzyme and the polymorphisms and exactly how to control it, then you can go to seekinghealth.com or seekinghealth.org, seekinghealth.org. Watch this presentation here for the general public. It's a lot less inexpensive than for health professionals because of health professionals get CE credits. Okay, so we doctors have to continue going to school. And so here's the CBS polymorphism right here. And I spent a lot of details on it. I spent a lot of time on it. So let's get to your questions here. I'm going to go first. Yes, this is being recorded. I'm going to honor those who asked questions first. Is it true that the CBS SNP 699 should be addressed first? What are the symptoms of an upregulated CBS? What diet is best? And what supplements? Let me take a drink of water. So I never look at, as I talked about in the how to treat, it's here. So the how to treat SNPs video is here. right here. So if you go to seekinghealth.org, you click the YouTube on the top, and you scroll down and see all these videos. The How to Treat SNPs webinar gets into detail. But I never treat SNPs in isolation, including MTHFR. I did in the past, I don't anymore. So I don't address 699 variant first. I address the patient, period. I evaluate the history. I evaluate the history in saying, does your urine, one of the questions I ask is, I want to know all your symptoms, every single one. I'm not looking for your chief complaint. What's your main problem? That's what I'm looking for. If your main problem is fatigue, that's fine, but I want to know everything else. I'm easily bruised, I'm easily frustrated. When I eat beans, I get gas, I can't sleep at night, I can't wake up in the morning, my eye twitches, I have sore shoulder, I'm very sensitive to perfume and dryer sheets. I can't wear shoes because it makes my feet hurt. I'm more sore in the morning than at night. I do better with exercise. After bowel movements, which I have only twice a week, I feel much better. I belch all the time after meals. I have bloating after meals all the time. That is what you want to know. That's first. So you get a very, very thorough history. You get every single symptom that the patient is having or that yourself is having. And you look at that and you look for a consistent pattern, and you try to figure out what might be triggering these things, and you keep a journal. It sounds like it's a pain in the butt, but also living with symptoms for a long time that no doctor can figure out is also a pain in the butt. So what you need to do is you need to not worry about ordering your genetic panels and treating those SNPs. If you do that, you're going to be super frustrated. You might be lucky sometimes and start addressing things like the CBS SNP in taking molybdenum or lowering your protein intake, but that was lucky. And it was lucky because doing those two things are going to be helpful for a lot of people anyway. And also taking vitamin B1 is also going to be very helpful. And I should back up a little bit on that. And the reason I say vitamin B1 is useful is because, I'm not going to show you. Vitamin B1 is useful because elevated sulfites, somehow, for some reason, interfere with vitamin B1 absorption. So if you find that you are supplementing with molybdenum and you are doing much better with it, then you might also find that you're doing better with taking a bit of thiamine. So you can start with 50 milligrams of thiamine and see how you do. And yes, thiamine is sulfur containing. I get a lot of questions about that, but it's also very, very useful for many, many things. So keep that in mind. But I don't address the CBS SNP first. No, I address the entire patient first. What I always address first, actually, is the environment. What is the environment the patient is in? Are they living in mold? Are they sucking down car exhaust? Are they using toxins in their home? Are they using harmful cleaners? Are they not breathing right? Do they have air filters in their home? Are they drinking enough water? So the things that I address first are here. This is what I address first, right here. So preventing methylfolate side effects is a great article that gives you the basics of where to start. And no, I don't recommend supplements based upon SNPs. I know a lot of people do. That is very inaccurate and wrong information. Can the CBS SNP cause low testosterone levels? No, no. That's the other thing you guys need to talk about, and I talked about it in this video, I believe here, the How to Treat SNPs webinar, is you cannot look for single causes for problems. If you are fatigued, it might have multiple reasons. You might have stayed up too late. You might have Wi-Fi on or 4G on your phone. You may have been not eating. You might not be drinking enough water. You might not be breathing properly. You could have overgrowth of bacteria. You could have lead, mercury. You could have low B vitamins. Your Krebs cycle could be not working very well. You could have low mitochondria because you have low muscle mass. Maybe you're inflamed. So it could be all of those things and you start identifying each one and removing it, you're going to notice that your fatigue is getting better and better and better, and you're not as tired anymore. But there's multiple reasons for low testosterone. There's multiple reasons for any symptom, typically, and it's not that easy. We always want a linear relationship or a single cause for things, but I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. I'm supplementing with glutathione and alpha lipoic acid. Is it true that I need CBS working correctly to get the proper antioxidant function from these supplements? I don't know, but I do know if you're supplementing with S-acetylglutathione or liposomal glutathione, then you are going to be bypassing the, where is it? I have so many research papers open right now. If you are supplementing with glutathione, here it is. The CBS enzyme helps start the process by taking your homocysteine and converting it through into cysteine along with glutamate and glycine to make glutathione. So in order to, if you're supplementing with glutathione, no, you do not need your CBS enzyme to be working. If you're taking glutathione, then it's going to have negative feedback, meaning it's going to tell this enzyme right here to say, hey, we've got enough glutathione, we don't need any more, and it's going to increase your cysteine levels. And it's going to increase your cysteine levels, which is then going to push the cysteine out of your body as sulfite to sulfate through the conversion of SUOX. So if you're supplementing with glutathione and you feel like crap, then you might need to be taking molybdenum first, and you might need to take some B1 first, and I would start low. So start with some drop doses of liposomal glutathione, or you can take a capsule of S-acetylglutathione, but it's harder to take lower amounts of glutathione that way. I don't like plain old reduced glutathione in capsules. I hear that some people are having success with glutathione creams, and that's good. I don't know. I've never used it, but I hear some people do. So negative feedback, it increases your cysteine. And remember, if your iron levels are elevated or you have a lot of oxidative stress, you might be increasing your cysteine, especially if you're eating ample protein and sulfur-containing vegetables and food still, because that cysteine is going to be auto-oxidizing into reactive cysteine and be causing issues. So, and then I'm learning about the metabolism of glutathione as well, and I'm going to be enhancing this section of the pathway planner because there's a lot going on here, because there's breakdown products of glutathione that are also nasty that can cause problems. So again, not just one cut and dry thing. So you can bypass the CBS blockage by taking glutathione, but just make sure that this pathway is opened up and your molybdenum is sufficient. ALA, I see ALA can be good, but do note that ALA, it should be possibly taken with acetyl L-carnitine. The alpha R lipoic acid form is superior by far than just the alpha lipoic acid supplement itself. So if someone is going to be taking alpha lipoic acid, I recommend the alpha R lipoic acid form much better. And then taking acetyl L-carnitine is also useful to be taken with alpha R lipoic acid as well. And the other thing you should note is alpha R lipoic acid or alpha lipoic acid does tend to pull out heavy metals from inside the cell. So if you have a lot of heavy metals that are floating around your body that aren't in your cell and they're not out yet, and you're supplementing with alpha lipoic acid, you might be increasing that load outside of the cell even more and making yourself even sicker. So ALA is a potent nutrient. In case of genetic sulfite intolerance and possible molybdenum cofactor deficiency, which are the supplements you recommend? So molybdenum, hands down. Molybdenum is very, very useful. And I would start with 250 to 500 micrograms. I have a 500 microgram currently. I think I'm going to switch it to probably a 250 microgram and just have people take 2 if they want more. The thing is, if you're taking a lot of molybdenum, then you're also, I'm fixing this section on the pathway planner too. A lot of improvements going on right now. You should see my desk. It's a freaking nightmare. So xanthine oxidase is an enzyme right here that converts hypoxanthine to uric acid. I believe that's correct. And it uses molybdenum as a cofactor. And since it uses that as a cofactor, superoxide is a byproduct of that reaction. And that is not nice. So if you find that you're taking molybdenum and you were doing well in the beginning, you felt fantastic actually, and you kept taking it, then and you started feeling worse, then I would say 1, stop, 2, tell your doctor, and 3, check your uric acid levels with your doctor. Your uric acid levels could be elevating because you're supplementing this conversion more. And adenosine could be elevated because of methylation dysfunction or mitochondrial dysfunction or both. And this gets complicated. This is why you need doctors who are trained in this stuff. But if your uric acids are elevated, then I would also stop your molybdenum, or at least, I would stop it. And I would do what I call pulsing. That's what I always tell people. If you feel like crap, you start taking a supplement, you feel better. You keep taking that supplement, you feel even better. And you keep taking, you feel amazing. When you feel that amazing time, that's when you stop. You stop with guidance of your physician. Once you stop and you stay feeling excellent, that's great. Maybe you don't need it anymore. But you might start feeling bad again. Then you start taking it again. Then you feel excellent again. Then you stop it. Then maybe a week later you start feeling worse again. Then you take it. Now, if you continuously take it, then you can get problems such as increasing uric acid and superoxide. Okay, so I hope that helps. I would also recommend, if you have elevated sulfites, to take thiamine, vitamin B1. And you can see that the byproduct of sulfite becoming sulfate is hydrogen peroxide, and that requires glutathione. And you can see it here. Here's your glutathione, along with, here's your glutathione, and here's your hydrogen peroxide, which is also right here, right? Hydrogen peroxide is a reactive oxygen species. So here it is right here. Here's this enzyme, which takes your glutathione along with selenium. Selenium is very important. And it takes this hydrogen peroxide and it turns it into water. Beautiful thing. And then that glutathione gets damaged, comes over here to this enzyme. It uses riboflavin to convert it back into useful glutathione. Then it takes a chunk of selenium, takes some more hydrogen peroxide, converts it into water, and then it just keeps going round and round. Okay, just keeps going round and round until you run out of glutathione, and then maybe you need to increase your CBS enzyme so you can take your homocysteine, make more cysteine along with your glutamate and your glycine to make some more glutathione along with selenium to get rid of that hydrogen peroxide and so on. It's just cycles. These things are just constantly interacting. I wish I can have this animated, because as it's static, you don't see all the stuff going on, and this would just be absolutely crazy. Imagine if you walked up to an anthill that was about 5 feet tall and you punched it, and then the top of that anthill just exploded with ants all over the top. That's what this diagram would look like. It's just buzzing with activity. So there's not just one homocysteine molecule coming down here and transforming over here. It's going all over the place, and everything is communicating. Okay, it's just all over the place. So keep that in mind too. Reading here. I was told that I can gauge the CBS function by checking urine with sulfite strips. High reading on strips means that CBS is not fully functional. Is this correct? No, Mike, that's not correct. Sulfites has to do with the SUOX enzyme. It has to do with molybdenum. So if your sulfites are elevated, your CBS enzyme is most likely working fine, and it's converting your homocysteine into cysteine and cysteine and making sulfites. Or it could also mean you're getting sulfites that are in your diet. Possibly you're consuming them in sulfite-containing foods or sulfite-preserved foods. So keep that in mind also. So your body makes sulfites, and I'm sure it makes sulfites in other pathways as well that I haven't looked into, but you're also consuming them possibly on a daily basis. So when you do a urinary sulfite testing strip, you're testing to see basically how well your body is doing in terms of getting rid of it. And if the sulfites are elevated on the strip, it could be 1, a faulty strip, 2, you just ate a bunch of sulfites, or 3, possibly you're low in molybdenum. Or it could also mean that you have an elevated level of arsenic or an elevated level of tungsten. W means tungsten. So these heavy metals are known to slow down your ability for Stuox enzyme to work. And arsenic is found where? Drinking water, rice, chicken, sea vegetables, as in kelp and chlorella. So if you guys are taking your smoothies and you're adding your kelp and you're busting down chlorella, that's not healthy. And you are drinking unfiltered water, and possibly you're getting tungsten from secondhand smoke, rat poison. You have rat traps around. I don't know where else tungsten comes from. It could be also from chemical manufacturing plants in your environment. So all over the place. So you can run what's called a red blood cell, RBC heavy metals test to see what's going on. And that is going to be looking for acute exposure, meaning exposure that you are getting right now. And if it's elevated, then you have exposure to tungsten and arsenic. Now, if it's not elevated, it doesn't mean that you're in the clear. It doesn't mean you're in the clear at all. It means that arsenic and tungsten and other heavy metals could be sequestered in your fat, in your bone, inside cells, and so on. So then you have to do what's called a urinary provocation test with your doctor, and your doctor will see if you can do that or not, because you have to do certain tests to make sure you can do that. And then you do a urinary provoked challenge test, and then you will be amazed possibly that how much heavy metals that you're peeing out. So when I first did it, my arsenic level was sky high, and my mercury levels was kind of high. And the doctor said, "What's going on with your arsenic level?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Where does it come from?" And he told me, and I used to do landscape design construction, and I was handling pressure treated wood all the time without gloves, and I didn't use a respirator when I cut it with my chop saws. So here I was loading myself with arsenic from pressure treated lumber. So that also could be increasing your sulfites. I'm looking for more questions here. And I've got a lot. You guys aren't shy, which is great. I'm sure some of you want to punch me in the face because you think otherwise about CBS, and thankfully I'm across a long wire. You can't do that. But I assure you, my goal of this webinar is to give you the right information. I have no agenda otherwise, right? I mean, my agenda is to get you guys the proper information and the doctors the proper information so you guys can feel better. That's my agenda. I know a lot of people think sometimes that I have a different agenda. No, that's not it. My agenda is to figure out why the body does what it does and how we can, as physicians and as general living humans, what we can do to make our lives better. That's my goal. I'm not tolerating sulfites or sulfur very well at all. I get brain fog, fatigue, burping, acne, and arthritis when I eat too much. Currently, I'm avoiding these foods, and it's helped improve my symptoms. I'm waiting the results of my 23andMe, but I believe I have difficulty with sulfur since childhood. I have MTHFR1 SNP, I don't know which one. I found that methyl B12 in any sulfur-containing supplement makes me feel worse. What supplements do you recommend to get my detoxification back on track? So, two things. One, I never recommend supplements without a full history. And the other one is I don't recommend supplements based upon SNPs. And the other one is, let's see, a lot of people blame their symptoms on detoxification, which is actually fairly accurate, but think of it as your ability to eliminate and what you're being exposed to. The first thing you need to be evaluating is what you're being exposed to on a day-to-day basis. Are you stuck in traffic every day, sucking down carbon monoxide? Do you have mold in your house? Are you eating genetically modified foods? Did you recently take antibiotics and you got an overgrowth of bacteria, which are flooding your system with a bunch of crap, which your liver has to metabolize? Are you eating a bunch of protein and your ammonia can't get out, which is make you feel foggy headed? So you have symptoms where you feel better. So currently I'm avoiding these foods and it's helped improve my symptoms. So what I will recommend, because you found that you don't tolerate sulfites well, and the only thing I know currently with sulfites is molybdenum and avoiding sulfites in your diet and getting rid of arsenic and tungsten and taking vitamin B1 and reducing your sulfur intake, because sulfur intake is increasing your cysteine, which then takes your cysteine and makes more sulfites. So reducing those sulfur is reducing the cysteine, which is reducing your sulfites. So you can do what we've talked about already with that. And it might be some time until you feel better. You can keep testing it. I would also evaluate, see how much protein you're eating. Again, a rough guide, it would be 1 gram of protein per 2 pounds of your body weight. And so if you're 150 pounds, then 75 grams of protein could be useful. Now, if you have inflammatory bowel disease, or you have a big open wound, or it's post-surgery, then you're gonna need more protein. If you're a marathon runner or a weightlifter and you're exercising and you're an elite athlete, then you're also gonna need more. You might need 1.5 grams of protein per 2 pounds of body weight in those situations. And you also need to evaluate your arginine levels. If you have an infection, if you have any type of pathogen, mold, viruses, bacteria, what that's going to do is it's going to stimulate this enzyme. I'm branching off to another pathway. Here's your arginine, okay? And I don't have inos on here. Again, I'm updating this whole thing. I can't believe how outdated this is now based on my new drawings. It's unbelievable. But arginine, Eric Balkavage, he's a chiropractor out of Pennsylvania, and he brought up the point as if you have an infection or you have cardiovascular disorders and you're using up all your arginine to make nitric oxide, then you don't have enough arginine left over to get rid of the ammonia. And you need arginine to help get rid of ammonia. You need arginine to do a lot of things, actually. So you could also be deficient in arginine, especially if you have an infection or inflammation, or you have, if you have cardiovascular problems. There's a lot of, it gets very, very complicated, and I'm discussing this this October at SHEI for doctors. I'm showing where arginine blasts off to, and it's a lot. It does a lot. So my point with that is you could also be that's tough. Your urea cycle, say that fast. Your urea cycle could be overburdened. So if you're finding that your protein intake, when you drop it, you feel better, the urea cycle is possibly slowed for various reasons. Maybe your mitochondria are overburdened because your urea cycle occurs partially in the mitochondria. Your ammonia levels could be deficient. Your B6 levels could be deficient. So it could be a lot of things. So look for a doctor at seekinghealth.org. If you go here, come on, internet. Seekinghealth.org, you go to directory, you push this, and there are a bunch of docs here around the world, and there's more and more adding every day, okay? And you can type in the search of where you are. Or you can click advanced search, and hopefully that works. Yep. And the doctors will state if they do phone, Skype, or office calls as well. And maybe you prefer working with a male doc or a female doc. That will also help, okay? Looking for more here. Is there a link between CBS mutation and Parkinson's? So again, I don't look for if-then singular statements. I would say that Parkinson's has a lot of linkages: B12 deficiency, stress, pesticide exposure, elevated homocysteine, elevated dopamine levels, dopamine quinones, elevated iron, hemochromatosis, MTHFR, COMT, PON1, SOD, glutathione issues, glutathione deficiencies, phosphatidylcholine deficiencies, liver toxicities, mitochondrial disorders. So again, it's multiple problems that put all in a bucket, become labeled as Parkinson's, which the standard medical community uses. But in actuality, you don't have Parkinson's, which is a man-made term or a woman-made term. It's just a term. What you have is you have dysfunctional pathways that need to be evaluated. And those dysfunctional pathways can be many. And CBS enzyme can be one such pathway for Parkinson's. And remember that the CBS enzyme, the main one, according to research, is a slowed CBS, which leads to elevated homocysteine. And if it leads to elevated homocysteine, then it's going to increase your SAW levels, which is then going to slow down your methyltransferases, which then, stay with me, which is then going to slow your COMT enzyme, which is then going to take your dopamine and make dopamine quinone. And dopamine quinone is right up here. You need a magic marker to see that. I have it drawn out on my piece of paper here on my desk. But dopamine quinone is auto-oxidized by iron, copper, or manganese, and it is very nasty, and it can cause Parkinson-like issues. So that is one connection out of multiple. And another thing you guys need to know is dopamine can go to dopamine quinone through methamphetamines, cocaine, alcohol use, cigarette use, and the drugs that are used for ADHD. So kids who are on things like Ritalin or whatever else they call them, these things also increase dopamine quinones, and it's awful. And I am presenting all that work at SHEI this fall as well. So let's see, that has to do with, I want to see if I can have that paper up here. That's an interesting paper. So if you have low arginine, you can have low arginine, and I'm getting on a sidetrack. I just want to give you the reason why I have this odd looking paper here on my desk. But if you have low arginine, then you might have a dysfunctional sexual arousal response. And so if you are not enjoying sex, it could be you have low arginine. And you can have low arginine for various reasons, because arginase competes for L-arginine, and it reduces the nitric oxide synthase activity in the genital tissues. And remember that arginine is used for the urea cycle. It's used to make nitric oxide in order to get rid of pathogens. So if you have Lyme disease or H. pylori or bacteria infections or molds or whatever, then you're using up your L-arginine, and then you're going to have nothing left over for your endothelial nitric oxide level, which is found all over the place, like your cardiovascular system, also your genitalia, and sex is not going to be very good for you. So that is also an interesting, good question for doctors to be asking to their patients. I want to show you this paper because it's very important. These are the ones I'm working on currently. But I'm not seeing it. Bummer. Oh, and also if you're low in arginine, then you have low nitric oxide in your mouth. And if you have a lot of dental cavities and you're brushing your teeth, you're flossing, and you're doing everything you can, that also could be low arginine because of bacterial infections. And you're getting a lot of cavities because you need nitric oxide in your mouth in order to kill bugs. And bugs are making cavities. So that's also pretty cool. It's so cool how it's connected. Oh, somebody's, I think, yeah, Claire, thank you. I was just deleting your statements here because you wrote multiple ones and they were connected. But Claire has a great point. Oxidized glutathione promotes CBS. Thank you, Claire. Appreciate that. Claire is a naturopathic physician who is helping you figure out these issues, and she just helped you right now. So thank you, Claire. So Claire pointed out an important point here. So I just put high glutathione. So high oxidized glutathione will promote CBS, and reduced glutathione will slow it. I think that's the more accurate way to look at it. So Claire, thank you for that. So oxidized means used up. So what I mean by that is here's your good glutathione, here's your bad glutathione. So your bad glutathione is bad because the good glutathione converted the hydrogen peroxide, converted it to oxidized because it got used up by taking the hydrogen peroxide and converting it into water. Now it's damaged. Your body will recycle it with riboflavin back into this good stuff. Okay. I thought CBS SNPs were increased activity of CBS. Janet, absolutely you thought that. It's because you're seeing that on the internet. But the bulk, as you saw in the National Library of Medicine, the bulk of CBS polymorphisms are because are causing elevated homocysteine, because the bulk of CBS enzyme problems in research are a slowed CBS enzyme, which some of them are responsive to vitamin B6. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. The misinformation that you're seeing on the internet is driving me batty, and a lot of my time is spent on undoing what you're learning on the internet. So thank you for your question. Am I differentiating animal versus plant sources of protein? Claire, I am not. I love how specific you are. I'm not. So I would say that there are healthier forms of protein. So if you have grass-fed beef compared to grain-fed beef, it's definitely a difference. So if you're having grass-fed beef, you're going to be getting healthy fats in the beef. If you have grain-fed beef, which is feedlot beef, stressed out cattle, typical cattle, then that is going to be high in omega-6 and very inflammatory fat. And so that is not what you want. You want to go local. You want to get as local as you can. You want to go to find a local rancher in your area or a local butcher or both or one or the other, and find people in your community, in your neighborhood, that want to go in and buy a quarter cow, half a cow, or a full cow, and you can divvy it up, and you'll save a lot of money. 2, it'll be a lot more nutritious. 3, you're supporting the local economy and not the feedlots who it's horrible. Watch Food Inc. if you want to see what feedlot cattle go through. It's a nightmare. If sulfur and ammonia is elevated, what is a good dose of molybdenum to take? Now, AJ, these are 2 different issues. Sulfites and ammonia are different animals. So you've got, somebody said, let me scroll down here. Okay, sulfites are here, and you take molybdenum, and I always make the recommendation of starting low and working up. So 250 to 500 micrograms of molybdenum, and make that the only intervention that you do. Make that the only intervention you do, along, of course, with reducing sulfite-containing foods. And note how you feel prior to taking it. Note how you feel after taking it. You guys need to understand what you're doing when you reach for that supplement bottle or food. You need to know what you're doing to your body, and you need to imagine what that food is going to do to your body. Is it going to support you physically, biochemically, and emotionally, or is it going to be detrimental? So I want you guys thinking about that. So we're all grown-ups here. I don't think there's any kids tuning in. If you're a kid tuning in, man, hats off to you. That's awesome. But you need to be totally aware that what you put in your mouth is making big changes on what's going on inside your body. How you're breathing, the environment around you is very important too. Ammonia is a totally different animal. And I don't have the urea cycle on here, and I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to confuse you. Is my audio okay, guys? I'm hearing that there's problems all of a sudden. Audio okay? Fine here, thanks. Okay, good. Okay. Am I taking account of blood type issues? ABs have no... Oh, are you taking account blood type? AB blood types have nitric oxide issues. John, I don't. Peter Diadamo, Dr. Diadamo is way better on that than I do. But nitric oxide, again, has multiple, not one-dimensional singular issues. So here's your nitric oxide. So you need arginine for this. You need iron. You need healthy biopterin. You need adequate BH4. You need good levels of glutathione. So there's a lot of things at play here. Please schedule a conference in South. I'd love to help with the logistics. Sickest people in the country. Yeah, I can imagine. A lot of mold there, a lot of mold. The good thing is if I don't schedule a conference in a particular area, I am recording it and it is available. And when I do a conference for the general public, which I will, I promise, I will be streaming it live with webcams as well. Would CBS plus minus cause low pyruvate? Again, you're looking at a singular SNP with a singular causative factor. No, low pyruvate again is I haven't drawn it on my pathway planner yet, but it's going to be. Low pyruvate has a lot of problems associated with it. So you can have low pyruvate. One, you're not eating enough. You're not having enough glucose. You're not eating enough carbs. You are not having adequate upstream nutrients. Your Krebs cycle is messed up. Actually, that's before your Krebs cycle. So maybe you're just not eating enough, or maybe the lab is faulty. But you know, I would be checking your glucose levels first of all. But I don't want to get into that because it's complicated. What level of homocysteine do you consider high? My doctor considers 15 at the beginning of a high level. Kathy, I think that 8, 9 is where you should be trying to optimize. 8 or 9 is something to be balancing and working on. 7, I hear, is ideal. It's probably going to be dependent upon a lot of other factors as well. But I hear among doctors, 7 is a great number to be aiming for. 15 is definitely high, but that's the standard level of high, according to standard medicine. And I would be reading the book, Could It Be B12? So go to Amazon or your library or the bookstore and buy the book called Could It Be B12? That's a great book, but also keep in mind that it could be more than B12 because homocysteine elevation has more to do than just vitamin B12. If feeling really depressed, would taking an antidepressant hurt the healing process? It all depends. Antidepressants can do different things. So if you're feeling really depressed, here's a lot of the area that is problematic in depression. You could have high homocysteine, you could have low glutathione, you could have low tyrosine, you could have low tryptophan, you could have low 5-HTP, you could be exercising too hard, not eating enough protein. So the first thing I would do is I would go to here. Come on. And I would get this, the 7 Steps to Happiness. This is a really, really good video, and I'm bummed that nobody's reviewed it yet because I think it's fantastic. So I think a lot of people who are depressed can get a lot of good benefit out of this. I talk about diet, digestion, the activity, stress, infections, free radicals and inflammation, and genetics. And all these things are included in this course. And a lot of other things are included if you get the membership. So this is $25 at a standstill, or as general public for the whole year, you can become a member. You can get recordings of all these webinars that I've done. We have quite a few webinars now, which are accessible to members. And you also get the fully metabolism video. You got the nitrous oxide video, which is pretty cool. It shows the negative effects of nitrous oxide, which everybody needs to be understanding. Pregnancies, cancer relations. Here, the Methylation Summit is offering information about free radical damage, reactive oxygen species. Also, it talks about detoxification and also methylation, and then pediatric problems, and just a practical approach of methylation. And then you get 5% off of the part 1 and part 2. So basically, it's an amazing deal. So I'd really love you guys to get a lot more training, because seriously, the bulk of the questions that you're asking me are already here. They're already done and said, and you can sit in the comfort of your own home and go at it at your own pace and watch it again and again. And the membership will provide access to all that, and you can share it with your friends and family and so on, and you get all the recordings. And what I also want to say is that we have this conference coming up, which I've talked about a few times. But if you want to know about the arginine pathways, if you want to understand more about food and how it works and all its varied effects on you, protein, carbohydrates, fats, sugars, then you really need to go here. And we're all eating, every single one of us. If you're drinking water and you're breathing air, I get into that. If you're living in a house or you're living on the planet, I also get into the environment and all the biochemistry surrounding that. I also get into, well, sexual dysfunction because of arginine pathways. But that is a very serious issue for some people. So we've got case presentations as well. The general public cannot attend this conference. I'm sorry about that, but we need to make space for the doctors who are in attendance. So just come to seekinghealth.org and click the conference registration here, and you can find out more if you're a health professional. And you can do 1 day, 2 day, or 3 day passes, and the agenda is right here. So, and I'm also giving how to interpret the pathway planner that I've been showing you guys. So all these things here, I'm giving clinical scenarios, and this is going to be way improved. Right now, here's the current pathway planner. The new one, it's going to have the urea cycle, it's going to have the Krebs cycle, it's going to have the mitochondrial complexes. This whole dopamine complex is changing. The arginine area is changing. Over here, SAMe, it goes somewhere else, especially in terms of infections. And I'm teaching what's called the cell danger response. So there is a reason why our body makes free radicals or reactive oxygen species, and why it makes nitric oxide and hydrogen peroxide. There's reasons for it. We don't want to always take antioxidants. We need the oxidants to do a lot of beneficial things like kill bugs. And a lot of you are chronically ill because you have you're stressed out, your immune system isn't working, you're not absorbing your food for various reasons, your liver is congested, and you're riddled with these bugs of viruses, pathogens, molds, yeast, and so on. And then your arginine levels drop, your cardiovascular risk goes up, your sexual dysfunction goes up, and your ability to get rid of pathogens goes up, or it goes down, sorry. And so you just have this chronic sickness that doctors are treating each one in isolation instead of putting all this to work and pinning down what is going on by asking a complete history. And once you have a complete history, then you can figure out that, man, you know what? We need to calm your stress down. Then we need to kill these bugs. We need to take care of your arginine levels. We need to we need to change how you're eating. We need to do less protein, more fat, and how you do all that is discussed here with online forms, how to do a patient intake. I'm also doing positioning for doctors, how to be successful in the clinic. Here, like I talked about, air and water is being discussed. You wouldn't believe the crap that's in your air and your water. I mean, you would, but the effect on your biochemistry is very real. And you know that you need to have clean air and you have clean water, but you don't know what it's doing to your biochemistry. And if you understand what it's doing to your biochemistry, then you can do something about it. And the symptoms that it's associated with. Food and shelter, the same thing. Susie Cohen, America's Pharmacist, who's a pretty cool lady, and her husband's not too bad himself. Medication effects on your genes. So if you're taking supplements or taking supplements too affect your genes, but medications are a big problem. Cell danger response is very, very useful, and we don't want to blunt that. If you blunt your cell danger response, then your body will never heal. But if it's going out of control, then your body will never heal either. So then I tell you causation of mitochondrial dysfunction, how to fix it. And then Alex out of UK is going to be bringing up ketogenic diet, which is modified. And then we have case studies all the rest of the time. So that's it. And I hope this webinar was great for you. Michelle, where can you find the pathway planners? If you go to seekingorg, you click products, pathway planners. It's right here. We have posters and a download. The poster is a 2-foot by 3-foot thing, and right here, and you can get it laminated so you can draw on it. So for doctors, that's what I highly, highly recommend. I can't believe people aren't leaving reviews. Come on. This thing is life-changing. It's amazing. I had a bad hair day again. But if you get it laminated, that's the one I recommend, because if you draw on it with a dry erase, not permanent, or a wet erase marker, you can mark it up and you can see what's going on with your genes, the epigenetic control, the vitamins that you're taking, and all that. It's pretty cool. This poster is not updated. We are in the works right now. It's a pretty cool poster as is. We will have the updated poster, Rohan, at SHEI, and I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use it. It's really mind-blowing, and it's mind-blowing to Sean, our graphic designer, because he looked at my mountain of papers of all my diagrams, and he's literally freaking out because this could be pretty complicated. You listen to this webinar again, Christine. I'm going to make this one free for everybody again, so it'll be on YouTube. So if you click seekingorg and you go to YouTube, I will post this for free for you guys. There are other webinars that are, once you're logged in, if you go to your dashboard, this is what you see as a member. And you click here to view the webinars. And these are all the other webinars that you get. When you remember, you can see all the ones. This one didn't have video because it was screwed up. The other ones should. Yes. So the good thing about also being a member tier is you can download the podcast off of iTunes. So you can just put it in your phone and listen to it. So we have a podcast on iTunes, and we should have that up here actually. I think we have it on the home page. So we stripped the audio from this and don't just have the video. So here's the iTunes. So you click the iTunes and you can download the podcasts. If you can't make the conference, is there a way to access the content later? Possibly. We're thinking about recording it, but it's 4 days long. So that's a heck of a lot of audio and video, but we might record it. But I do hope you guys can attend, because it's going to be great. Community learning. At SHEI at the conference, when you eat lunch, we don't have exhibitors or anybody selling anything. It's just networking. That's it. So you guys talk with each other, you talk with the other presenters, you can talk with me, you can talk with whoever, and you could meet other people who are doing this and applying it in their clinics. And we don't have anybody talking to you during lunch. And we're even doing a modified ketogenic lunch for you. And we're working on filtered water, not bottled water. So we practice what we preach at SHEI. Any other questions here? There's a lot, but I'm just looking for simple ones. My sulfites test strips show low sulfites. Is that a concern? Kim, maybe you're not eating enough sulfur-containing foods. So it could be absolutely fine, but if not eating enough sulfur-containing foods, that's a problem. Sulfites, as far as I know, you do want to keep them low, but they probably do have some beneficial effect. But if they're low and you feel that you're not doing very well, maybe you've been on a low sulfite, low sulfur diet for a long time, this is actually a very, very key point. If you've read this stuff on the internet and you've been sulfur free forever, you've been low protein, haven't been taking B6, and you've been taking molybdenum, and now you're having difficulty breathing, and your uric acid levels are elevated, and you have muscle soreness, and you're kind of gasping for air, then you need to stop that stuff, and you need to start eating a bit more protein, possibly start supplementing with N-acetylcysteine, and working with your doctor on this, because I know some of you guys have been low sulfur for a long time and have been really pumping the molybdenum, and that can be a problem because molybdenum binds the sulfur in your gut. Also, I believe, I'm not fact on that, I've seen it and then I've lost it, I've seen it and I've lost it. But that said, you need to be getting sulfur. It's very, very important. And another really important thing, I'm glad that you guys have stuck around. If you've been low sulfur for a long time, how do you expect to make glutathione? Really, I mean, how do you expect to make glutathione if you've been low sulfur? You can't. So if you've been eating low protein, low sulfur, and avoiding vitamin B6, your glutathione levels are going to be very low. And what's going to end up happening with your glutathione levels is your body is going to break apart your glutathione to make cysteine, because your body needs cysteine for various things. So not only is your glutathione low, but it will get even lower because your body is going to break apart your glutathione into providing cysteine. Okay? So that's pretty darn important. And your methylation is also going to be messed up. So you really, really have to tune in how you're feeling, and there is no one diet that's correct. There is no one recommendation. All these SNP report planners that you're getting, all the recommendations that if they're static on there, they're full of crap. They're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. If you have COMT, you take hydroxo. If you have MTHFR, you take methylfolate. If you have SHMT, you take, it's full of crap. It's wrong. You don't treat based upon SNPs. You take that, you look at the genes that you have, you rip off the recommendations. Seriously, it pisses me off that people are giving these recommendations based upon SNPs. It's money making, and that is agenda. So for people that are generating reports that are that biased between SNP and condition without affecting lifestyle, diet, the environment, and looking at everything else, that's absolutely wrong, and it pisses me off. And if you're listening, you got to stop doing it. It's wrong, and you're hurting people. So cut it out. And what you need to be doing is you need to be learning more of all the lifestyle, dietary, environmental impacts upon your genes and your mindset. Mindset is wickedly important. If there's a hill in front of you and you're tired and you say, I can't do it, then you're not going to do it. If you say, I can do this, then you can do it. So just be positive. And on that note, be positive, have an I can do it attitude, think big, think multifaceted, multiple pathways. There is not really any, if I have this, then it's that problem. It's not one-dimensional, okay? So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. And again, this is for free because I want to dispel the myths that are around on the internet. CBS is a very important enzyme. Avoiding it or thinking it sucks is wrong. You need it, okay? And hydrogen sulfide, I didn't even touch on, but that's it found in the part 1 resource and the courses here. I touch on hydrogen sulfide a lot. If your hydrogen sulfide levels are low, you're not going to be able to be breathing. If you're asthmatic and you feel like you're asthmatic for avoiding protein and your sulfur for so long, well, it's because your hydrogen sulfide isn't there, possibly. So you got to have hydrogen sulfide, and hydrogen sulfide is very important for your brain too. It's called a gasotransmitter. I thought I was laughing hysterically when I heard about gasotransmitters. All right, thank you. I got to go to a parent-teacher conference with my little boy. Fun stuff. Okay.